This one's right. I got it right now. Hey everyone, welcome to the SIG Network Policy API Sub-Project meeting. Today's the 25th of March. Let's all be nice to each other. There's not much on the agenda, and it's also very bleaky participation. It's only me, Dan, and Sean. And let's get started. There's one item on the agenda. If anybody wants to add more stuff, please feel free to. So Sean has a question on what's the status of the BANP renaming. Sean, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, just that really. I was wondering if there was an update on that NPEP, if there were any blockers, or if I think Nadia had the next action, and if she was waiting for anybody. But since she's not here, maybe someone else knows. But
yeah, she's not able to make it today, but I think she was actually expecting some reviews, which I think is, I don't know if anything's happened since the 2 weeks we spoke from the previous meeting, if there's been any more updates. But the naming and I think we decided that we would put them all in the same NPEP, right? Like, because it's just logical.
I think so, and I think the review that we'd had so far seemed like no one was really dissenting. So I wasn't sure if she was waiting for more feedback or if there was an official thing she was waiting for from the others to say, yeah, that looks good to me or anything. Or she just hadn't got around to it yet. But I just didn't want it to stall because she was waiting on us and we were waiting on her.
Did we figure out what the actual approach was? Because I think the PEP was mostly saying we want to do it. I think the actual specifics was less clear.
Yeah, I think we had a discussion around the actual specifics a little bit down here in one of the meetings, but agreed that it's not exactly written down on the API changes itself, right? And I think the reason behind that is because usually we agree upon what we want it to do, and then we try to show an example in the later stages, but so I think it's in the provisional stage. So she's trying to agree on the user stories and what change we want to do here. And once everybody's okay with it, then I think we go into the next stage of it with the API changes.
Yeah, so it felt like we discussed it a few times and nobody really dissented about just having one CRD, adding a tier field, I think was the one that people seemed happiest with, and that's been proposed in that doc and nobody's rejected it. And then I think we're renaming priority to order because it was the best name we thought of so far. I think everyone sort of nodded along with those things. But yeah, I wasn't sure if that was agreed and Nadia was going to propose that as the next thing, or if we needed
yeah, if it's just a PR, I'm happy to do it. I just don't like Nadia seems to be owning this, so
yeah, I think the next
step, a PR.
Yeah, I think the next steps are one of the approvers in the repo should take a look, which I think is Dan Winship, or the other approvers are not really active, but sorry.
I think this NPEP came up in a meeting that I missed, and so then I totally had never even seen that it happened. So yeah, I have it open now. I will review it.
Yeah, and on my side, I'll also try to take a look at it. But Boe and Sean, I think you both reviewed, and the goals on what we want to do, we are all aligned, right? Like I think that part is clear. And I think the next step is obviously, I think Boe has a great point. He wants to see the actual API merged and how that would look like. But I think she's waiting for us to all act on this. And then I think usually it's a second phase where once the user stories are signed and merged, only then do we actually do the API change, usually in the NPEP. It's not part of the
so
same
it
process.
sounds like, Dan, that's on you for this one.
Yep.
Okay. Because when she puts the PR up, I'm sure people will also have comments. So It's like,
Yeah.
it doesn't stop here.
Yep. Agreed. Okay, so I will write that as the action item. Let's see.
There was the other one with the back and forth about pointers to slices, where I think pointer to slice is out, so we have to do something different. And I think we were heading towards having a pointer to a struct, maybe. Not my favorite API, but if it's what works with the tooling, then
So that's this issue, right? And I
Yeah.
think so it's not supported, it's going away, so we need to kind of change it, was the conclusion.
Yeah, did we figure out what to do here? It
I
seems
think we're
pretty clear to
looking-
me that we shouldn't try to do our own thing just because, you know,
I think
if this is going to be a validation, then you're like kind of wedged.
I think we're 100% sure that pointer to slice is not allowed, because that came right back from Tim, didn't it? And we know that doesn't work, but it's just which of the other options works, and we can live with.
But where is the
So,
discussion for the pointer to slice did not work? Because the last I heard was we wanted to go
It's
back
fine.
to the API server team and then
I
yeah,
think
that the response is that they actually have a PR that's merged that
oh, okay.
disallows it.
Do you have does one of you have a link to that we can track? Like, I think the next step
The-
here is for
I think the
somebody to
link is
own
in
this.
the
Sorry, go
link
ahead.
is in that issue. It's in one of the comments somewhere.
I see a Slack
that one.
thread. That one? Okay.
Yes.
Right. So, so what I can do is, so I think we just need somebody to open a PR to fix it. So own this issue and get someone. I think it's assigned to Bove. I don't know, Bove, if that is accurate, or you want help. I don't know if you want me to do it instead. What do you think?
Okay, I mean, I took the signee because it was closed and I reopened it. If you want me to send a PR or something, like I just assigned it to myself because it's an easy way for me to track stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess I will. By the
Both
way,
works, right? So yeah, if you're interested in helping out with fixing this, then definitely PR is welcome. I think we're all on agreement that we
just
want to move
very
away from it.
briefly, like we can't have just a slice because we want. I know Dan said there was something about consistency, but I just wanted to clarify that we do want to distinguish between it's not set versus it's empty versus it has items. Or is that just a consistency thing? Because Dan, I was reading through the comments and it sounded more like a code consistency than a.
The behavior in network policy where empty list and nil are the same thing has been confusing in the past. So I would like to have it be the case. Well, it must be the case that nil means do not restrict on ports. I would like it to be the case that explicit empty list does not mean that. So one way of doing that is the min items, but then we're worried about, well, if you don't have pointer to slice, are there languages that aren't going to let you have, like, are there languages where that would then, we're saying min items equals 1 would prevent you from writing nil? And so if that's the case, then in order to do this, we would have to do, as Tim had suggested, like array of struct rather than, or sorry, pointer to struct rather than
Yeah, pointer struct, yes.
pointer to slice. And then that gets into the whole protocols thing of, well, okay, if we're changing this that much, why don't we make sure that we're, handling that right at the same time?
Okay, I can take both of those on because I kind of resurrected them. You can just assign it to me. I'll send an update.
Yeah, so this issue, I think, and what was the second one?
A protocols discussion. I think I was asking if it makes sense to pull protocols out of port because you'll have a duplicate field.
Yeah.
And then Dan, I think you were thinking you should put into peer, and I think I made some other suggestion which we just have to. I have to take another look.
So do you think about the pulling the protocol out of the port is definitely NPEP type? That I
Okay.
think we need design discussion. But for this slices itself, maybe we can fold that into that NPEP, like complete, maybe the NPEP can be called restructuring ports the way it is today, and then
That's
we
fine.
could,
I can do that.
okay.
'Cause, yeah, this wouldn't be a simple PR. It would change the API in some
Yeah,
ways.
yeah.
Okay, I'll do that in one thing.
What would the future of ports and policies look like? I think we had an issue somewhere for the policy also, right? Like, should be able to find it. If I could
Wait, so
just
which
send that to
policy?
sorry, the protocol. Why do I keep saying policy? I don't know. The protocol also had a separate issue. I want to try to get that one.
Yeah, I think I
linked.
reopened it. Just look for protocol.
It's
Or
not assigned to you, is
more
it?
protocol support. I think, yeah, if you see my little picture there, I think
This
more
one.
protocol support,
Oh, right. Okay. Sorry.
that one.
Must be blind. It's already assigned to you. That's awesome. So I'm gonna put that also here.
I don't remember if I mentioned it on that issue, but having named port not have a protocol, it's kind of annoying in our data plane because you end up with needing to duplicate everything n times for however many protocols it could possibly have. But
No, a named port has a protocol associated with it from the pod.
yeah, I know, but the way that network policy did protocol, if I remember, like if the protocol is not specified, it defaults to TCP. So there's always a protocol associated with a rule, which made it easier to support. But I could understand why we wouldn't necessarily want that from a user's point of view. But the fact that protocol is not separate, you can't match on protocol without defining the list of ports you want to match or what have you. Then that means that Calico has to sort of have a rule that could match on UDP ports or TCP ports or SCTP ports, and then slot the named ports into it in our representation.
Wait, sorry. I missed what you were saying. You're saying that there is a duplication no matter where we put it?
So it's kind of a technical issue on our side. If you have a named port without having like a particular protocol specified, then we effectively have to render the rule 3 times, once for UDP, once for TCP, once for SCTP, because the point at which we could filter it out is very far away in the code from the
Right.
where we're rendering the rule.
Interesting.
The fact that you can't match on protocol in addition to a named port, you can't say, I want the named ports called DNS, but I only want the UDP ones, for example.
Well, the named port has to be either just UDP or just TCP. If you want to have, like, Core DNS has a DNS-TCP port and a DNS UDP port, or one
right,
of them might be just
you might have one core DNS pod that has DNS and it's a TCP port, and one core DNS pod that has DNS and it's a UDP.
Oh, the name port thing is like the gift that keeps on giving. I see.
Yeah. Suppose you're upgrading from one version of core DNS to another that switches from UDP to TCP for sake of argument, then you, in the transition period, you have both. It's a slight. I think all we've done there is just duplicate the rule 3 times for now. In our
Yeah, I don't.
But if
everything just HTTP today?
if we did get a protocol field, that at least lets the user say, like, hint to us, like, no, don't even render the UDP one if you only want TCP. But yeah, it's
We got rid of it because it also lets the user be wrong, right? They could say protocol UDP port name HTTP, and you know, like we're just letting them specify something that won't work. Whereas if we don't let them specify anything, it will always work.
yeah, until you consider like HTTP 2 and 3 using UDP protocols and yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know.
I think like those are the illustrative examples probably that introduce some constraints. Like quick, okay. I'm not 100% certain. You're saying that this is a problem if you lift protocols out of ports or
I
if we
I'm
keep it
saying
in
for
ports?
Calico, if you have a separate protocol field that is kind of anded into the match, so let's say you say name
see.
DNS, but you specifically want to match DNS TCP, you could have named port DNS, but you could also have protocol TCP, and those would be anded together. That would be helpful for Calico, because we could tell people to do that if it makes sense. For, you know, if they're doing HTTP, they could slap TCP on their rules as a an optimization, really. But it's not kind of critical, I would say.
I see.
Yeah, and I think to your original question, Boe, in today for named ports, we don't put that in, right? Like named port is just a string. I don't think it actually comes with the protocol. Right?
Yeah,
It wasn't
correct.
that Sean's point. Yeah.
Yeah,
I see.
that
Like
was
it looks like
I think
this.
that was the
of
biggest
sorts.
awkwardness in mapping ANP onto Calico's internal model was we had to render every named port rule into 3 Calico internal rules to cover all the bases, if I remember correctly.
Oh, interesting. I didn't realize that name port, the struct does not have the protocol.
Right, yeah. So the port number and the port range have it. Like you have that port range protocol and port number protocol, but named port is just like the string, and it aligns with what Dan was saying, which is you don't want the user to put in a value, you actually want to go and match on each pods, each container ports, each combination of that name, and then construct the ACL based on the protocol set on the pod and not on the policy. But well, yeah, it's up for revisiting
Yeah,
that
that's
part, but
oh,
No, well, I mean, it's
how
like
much I hate name port.
yeah, you don't want the user to be able to say named port HTTP port 443 because they only want to use that subport, right? When you say named port, you mean whatever the pod says, that goes. And if that's not what you want, then don't use a named port.
I just, okay. I just think name port is something that probably is like a bad idea.
yeah.
It forces you to like watch all the pods and it just,
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay.
I think there was like
will
one
just
DNS use
think
case.
about
That's
that.
what I keep hearing.
I think
Yeah.
That is the only use
half
case,
of the
basically.
half of the code in our kind of policy engine is the named ports code.
Yeah, it was also tricky for us to implement it. It was really awkward to have the ingress pods and the egress pods in the opposite directions match for the sport, and yeah.
I tried to kill off.
Yeah, I have a concern, like you could set up a situation where it just kind of is like bizarre, like
I guess
two pods, name ports, like pointed, anyways.
I guess the named port struct we could add a second field to it that was, you know, and only match this protocol of named port. I mean, like I say, I take the point that it's you want to just defer to the pods, that's the whole point. But it's a little bit inefficient on our side, and it's disproportionately hard to fix because the rules get generated in one place and the actual named port matches get generated in another place, dependent on all the pods, as you say, watching all the pods.
So given that all of us seem to absolutely hate named ports, maybe we do want to revisit it. I mean, Tim had always been, you know, a big proponent of the, oh, well, if I'm doing my A, B, you know, whatever, and switching the port as I upgrade the pod, then we should support that. But, you know, we could say that's not our problem.
That's my like like, it's my opinion kind of under the category, but I think the fact that it is eminently not aggregatable is a massive problem. We could leave it out, but it's like a thing that you have to propagate everywhere is sort of what strikes me as problematic, but this is like more fundamental. Like, then we have to kind of go back to revisit what name ports mean. So for the user, right, they can create a pod and then they can create a name port, and they also have to give a port number. Like, it's also like, how many people actually use this? Probably 5%.
I think
With different ports.
it gets used for things like core DNS, where core DNS listens on port 5353, but the service exposes port 53.
Right. Yeah, no, I understand the remapping.
Cases, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, Sean, do you think you can just open another issue for outlining that named port pain points from Calico experience that you were just saying? And maybe then we can decide if that is, and Bo, it's up to you if you want to scope that as part of your NPEP, because now I can see your NPEP is growing, right? Like, of course, you want to fix the protocols, and then you want to fix the pointer to slice, but if you are interested in revisiting named ports, it is a good time. So maybe we can have definitely an issue to track it. But whether you put it as part of your NPEP or a different one, because that seems like a whole new bottle or can of worms, that's up to you.
Yeah, I think definitely this is useful to know that is sort of like all our decisions are because of something else. So, okay, I will think about it.
Yep. And I think this action item, you agree with me, Sean?
Yeah, I'll do that. I say it's not critical. We've already implemented it. It's just if we're gonna tear up some of that stuff, I would weigh that in.
Yep. I mean, it's good. Before we move to beta, we're like tearing the API apart field by field to see if things need to change. So it's now or never. Okay, that's good. And then over to you, Boy, before, unless there's
Yeah,
anything
so,
else on the previous sections. Yeah.
I'm just trying to find the doc so I can link it here. Okay, oops, this looks like it's only on Slack. Let me find it. Yeah, I'm trying to find like the time at KubeCon to kind of do the huddle for resolving what should go into beta. So go ahead.
I was going to say, it seemed like everybody was okay with the idea of doing it during the keynotes.
Yes. When are the keynotes? Sorry, I'm just trying to find the doc where we
I think it's like 9 to 10:30 every day.
Yeah, I found it, Boe. I can try to.
Okay, you have the
put it on
link. Can
agenda.
you just
Yeah,
drop the link?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
During the keynotes, sure, often skip these. Okay, can someone just drop the time if you have it handy, like when the keynotes are? And then we basically will just shoot for those.
You know what? Let's actually just do that real quick. I think the keynotes is from, let's see, not Tuesday. I need to. Wednesday? When does KubeCon start? Wednesday.
Yeah, 9 to 10:30.
9 to 10:30? Okay, perfect. Thanks, Dan. Yeah, so 9. Yeah, Dan's right. 9 to 10:30. 10:30 is when
Okay,
it
so let's do
finishes.
two things, 9 to 10:30. Perfect.
So what day did you say?
Looks like it's like Tuesday, Wednesday, right? Or no, you have
Okay.
booth duty.
Oh no, actually I'm free. I just realized that the co-located event is in the afternoon.
Tuesday is not KubeCon though, it's
Or
co-located events. So people might be busy. Although
yeah.
It looks like the morning is okay.
I think morning is okay for me as well. And Dan says he's free the whole day. Sean and I are both busy in the afternoon. Boe is free the whole day. Don't you have like a Google event, Boe? You're not going for that one?
You guys have priority over that.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe Tuesday morning, like you said, and
Okay, let's do
Wednesday.
Tuesday morning and then the keynote. But sorry, like the
Yeah.
keynote, 10:30 is, okay, it ends at 10:30. Okay,
But
so
there's no keynotes on Tuesday. So we can start as early as like it's not KubeCon on Tuesday. KubeCon's on Wednesday.
okay. How
So-
about like also 9 to something, 9 to 11? I'm just trying to get as much time as possible so we
Yeah.
can make progress.
Let me
9
see if
until
we
we
can-
can't stand to talk about network policy anymore.
I'm happy with that. I can do that.
Okay, I'm gonna write it down
Where can we
so
actually
that
meet?
sorry, what was that, Sean? I didn't get it.
Where can we actually meet? I'm
Oh.
conscious that I don't have an all access pass this time. I'm not a speaker, or I think I've got an ordinary badge. Some of my colleagues have the booth.
Pub at 9 a.m.
Sorry.
Just saying, let's meet at the pub at 9 a.m.
Yeah, I think the where is going to be a bit hard to decide for sure, given none of us know the layout of the venue. But Sean, we should be able to figure it out. Maybe we use Slack. And
Yeah.
Is there, I thought last time in Salt Lake City, they reserved some places for maintainers. Do you know?
yeah,
Let me
I'm
just
sure
look at
it
the
is there
map
this
real
time. Like
quick.
there's got to be the maintainers lounge, speakers lounge. There's got to be some of that. It's just we don't know exactly where it is. So maybe one of those
I'm looking at
places.
the map
Oh,
right
you
now.
have a map? That's cool.
Is there? There's no map. It's like in 1 week. Like they don't have a map.
Okay, but at least for the time, are we all on agreement that it's Tuesday 9 a.m. till we all get tired, and then did we say
But-
Wednesday? Or
But Sean is right. He will not be able to get into the venue on Tuesday if he doesn't have an all access pass. So
but we can let him in, right? Or is that not allowed?
no, they
I'm
will
right.
not
Oh,
let him into the building.
oh. Okay, sorry.
I might be able to trade with one of my colleagues to get because we have some like
Well, we'll figure
The
it
meetings, we'll figure it out. The meeting's being recorded. Gentle reminder. We will come back to this topic. I just realized
Yes,
it.
I will totally do the thing I'm not saying
Yeah.
I'm going to do.
We'll figure it out on
Um,
Slack, Sean, for sure.
Yeah, there is a map. I just found it. Of course, the text is like teeny tiny. So anyways, we'll work something out. If worst comes to worst, we'll just like go somewhere offsite. Like
Yeah.
I'm hopeful that it's not just a conference center and then just like a wasteland, but you never know.
We could just do a random cafe close by, something.
Yeah.
I think we should be able to do. Okay, and when did only Tuesday, right? As of now, is that correct? I just wrote it down.
It's Wednesday.
Okay,
I think Tuesday, Wednesday, if we have like
9 to
10:30.
10:30. Yeah.
Yeah.
Keynotes slot.
And if we
Um,
decide we didn't solve enough problems and we're still eager to talk about it, then there's always the possibility of just doing the same time slot on Thursday and or Friday.
Yeah, I won't be there Friday, but hopefully we've made enough progress that that would be like brutal.
No, I think, you know what, I'm not gonna write it down. Let's see how it goes. We can decide on Wednesday if we still feel like doing it.
Okay.
On Thursday.
I think we need 2 sessions, probably, hopefully not 3 sessions, and then 4 sessions, then we got problems, and then I
Yeah.
guess then we just won't resolve it.
Yeah, and one other quick thing is no matter what topics we discuss, and I know we have a lot to discuss, I think as an action item, if we can get an assignee assigned to every topic so that it is being driven forward, that would be great. I think that's one of the things. Like even if I forget, I think if all of us can agree to that, that would be awesome. Like even after KubeCon, whatever we want to work
Oh,
before
I'm
beta,
sorry,
if you.
I was gonna even be more aggressive, like, I think we should iterate this week on the list of topics to close. And the things to close. So like,
By that, you mean like get the PRs merged and closed for the new API?
no, like
class,
get
or-
the links to
okay.
the PRs and then, you know, PRs that need to happen, like just have like an entry. I know you have that project board, but I think it's pretty stale. And then there was another thing, like Dan, you wrote one. We should just, maybe in this doc, we could just, wait, is this doc have tabs? I'm trying to avoid, okay, there's like a tab in the SIG policy sub-project agenda. I think.
Other document.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Wait,
this one, the other document, not this one. Apologize.
Ah.
This one's just for meeting coordination, but yeah, beta discussion.
Okay.
I think like maybe this week we should all just scrub through this and just put as many items as we can think of in here. And then people can comment on it and so forth. So like by the time we show up in London, we have like a pre-populated thing. Because otherwise, probably we would spend like half an hour to an hour just populating it. And then, you know, inevitably someone's going to go to their hotel and then like wake up on whatever Wednesday and oh shit, we like forgot this thing. So like have to add more.
Yeah. I didn't know about this list. Okay, this is good. I'll also take a look at it. So this is a call out. If anybody wants to add things before KubeCon, put it on this doc. And we can try to see how to get that ironed out into PRs during KubeCon.
Okay,
Okay,
So-
then you had one more item, I think.
what was the other one? That's probably like the same thing.
Oh,
Yeah, that's basically,
okay,
yeah.
perfect, yeah. That's good. Thank you, Boe, for organizing and doing this. I think +1 to being aggressive and being productive during KubeCon. Anything else
Yeah.
anybody else wants to add? Oh, sorry, go
So
ahead.
I want to run this by you guys because I was talking to some of the Gateway folks and they were they're moving to this model where experimental things are in a separate API group. And then the GA is like very, like it's its own group. I'm wondering, and I was especially talking to Rob Scott, it sounded like that was what they are finding to be the most easiest to deal with. How do we feel about that as an approach? And then the other thing is, I know that Nadia or Surya, you have a PR to kind of get rid of extended, but at the same time, some
Yeah.
of the seems like are not fully discussed and probably should just be, I'm looking towards like, how can we iterate fast to get something out the door? And if the extended are still being discussed, should we move them to an experimental API group copy and then remove them so like the beta discussion can be like really focused and like get the core out there? Like I'm raising this to understand how people feel about that, because that to me is like would help a lot in trying to get conversions.
Right. I think I had opened a PR to get rid of the whole concept of extended and keep only experimental, which means that it's things that are not stable and can go away. But about the API group itself, having a separate one, I don't know if we are as extensive as the Gateway API community, so if we need that. But how about doing what you said, which is, for example, the 3 fields, well, there's 4 fields that are out in the experimental channel today, right? Which is the named ports, which it shouldn't be. We can easily make it standard because everybody agrees to that. Then we have networks, which we already have implementation. So I think that can also be part of the standard. And the only 2 things that are debatable is FQDN, which has no implementations. And
Yeah, FQDN I was
the-
looking at, like, especially it's just like, should we just remove that for now? Because I don't know if,
yeah, I mean,
if
we can
we
keep it
can
in
really
experimental.
impose
It's just we don't need to evaluate that channel at all for GA, right? GA is only going to be the ones in standard, the core part of the API.
I think also Mike had a hand, so just to,
Dan had a hand up, but Mike also. Well,
Yeah.
whoever was first.
Yeah, you go first. I'm just here to answer any questions or provide context on this.
So I was going to say one of the pain points that Gateway is having is the fact that you can have multiple Gateway implementations installed in your cluster, and they might have different desires API wise. And so that was a big problem. We don't have that. We expect there will only be one admin network policy implementation in your cluster. So from that perspective, we don't have, as much of a problem. An alternative perspective is that we should do whatever they do because it's easier for users if different external APIs all work the same way. So we might want to consider it for that. And then the experimental versus extended, the naming, we tend to get this confused too, but just to make sure everyone's clear, experimental is stuff that, features that are essentially in alpha, like FQDN. Extended was the idea that there would be features that would be GA, but we would not expect all implementations to implement them. And that's the thing that Surya's PR is getting rid of. We're saying if a feature is GA, everybody implements it.
Yeah, I think like maybe I'm misremembering. I felt like there was some mix up in the docs or the API, like some extended, some experimental, but so one thing is like, since FQDN is not implemented by anyone, should we just remove it for now? I understand we want to tackle it, but it's like,
When you say
can't
remove
have a
it from
thing
now, you mean keep it in experimental, right? Like nodes and FQDN, because it did take us a lot of time to hash out that API and merge it. So, but
I
we don't have
see.
to evaluate that as part of beta.
I think
I
think
see.
the stage that FQDN is at is that we all agreed on what the semantics should be, and then
Right.
we put it in so people could implement it. So it's kind of it's ready for people to go implement.
Yeah.
Yeah, my concern is like, if people haven't implemented, we actually haven't even gotten feedback from the implementers as to what the decisions we made. So that one makes me a bit cautious.
It's possible that moving it to, an xk8s.io object might be a good answer.
Well, I don't know if we will. I don't know if we'll be encouraging implementations to implement it by moving it to XK8s. I would think the otherwise. People would actually be even more hesitant to implement it. I mean, only the CNIs themselves, right? Like it's even implementing API fields in alpha is questionable. People are hesitant to do that, but
For some reason, Mike, I can't read your message because I'm on like this weird client.
Sure, I can say it out loud. It'll be easier.
What's that?
Yeah, so we went back and forth a lot on this whole, like, how do we better manage experimental channel in Gateway API? And one of the kind of the issues with current approach is that it's basically unclear to a user, like, if you're actually using an experimental resource or not, as well as for implementation or like managed providers. It's really difficult to tell if the resources that were installed are from the experimental channel or the standard channel.
Yeah, I think that in addition to some of the other stuff, like the coexisting things, like that one is like pretty big in my mind.
It is. So what we're moving forward with in 1.3, the upcoming release will happen within a couple weeks, is only like halfway adopting this. So it's only adopting this experimental API group for things that are entirely new resources. So we're rolling it out first for like a backend traffic policy, which is a separate CRD. We're not adopting it yet for experimental fields on existing stable resources. And I think that sounds like the use case that you would have had in mind for like FQDN.
Yeah, okay, we can leave it for now because I think this has precedent before. It's a little confusing. It's kind of like
I think we would like to
a highway
get to that
off
point,
ramp
like
that has like a little sign on it. It's like it doesn't exist.
Yeah. There was a lot of pushback initially, and there's still some concerns from implementations around like supporting two different API group versions and what are some of the like watch machinery to enable that. And there's some ideas about like improvements we can make to like controller runtime to facilitate this better. Right
Mhm.
now, it's I can drop the two lengthy issues where we've had a lot of discussion on this into the meeting notes for this meeting. But right now, I think that we've basically come to the realization of, yeah, we probably need to do this, but it's kind of a pain. It's like the least bad solution is basically what we've gotten people convinced at. Starting from a position of like a lot of opposition of this seems like a pain.
Yeah, that's why it's like we're at a stage right now where the pain may be contained.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
we started here,
Yeah,
it's
and that's
sort
why
of like
kind of like to Dan's point, like I'm wondering to what extent, like just given the scope that we have for this, like are the existing Kubernetes feature gates and like alpha, beta stuff, like if we can stick to that kind of pattern, it might be easier than trying to adopt something that's like still in a period of iteration.
oh, I meant the opposite, is that we're still
okay.
in a period of rapid iteration, and this is the place to adopt new things. But we might be preemptively solving a problem that, yeah. I just think like for something like security policies, it would be really critical for the user to understand like, oh yeah, this thing doesn't exist versus it does.
Yeah.
That's just my take. It's like it's less. I feel like there's less of an expectation that like,
I mean, that's basically the worst case that we've been working with experimental is like you have CRDs installed and you try to configure a field that's unsupported because it's valid and you can set it in the CRD, and then what happens?
yeah, I think that's my biggest concern is that users will just look at the API specs, kind of like glaze over the fact that it's experimental, configure it, and then kind of be very surprised.
Yeah.
And from a security perspective, usually the surprise is like potentially like, you know, a long time later when they realize like, oh wait, the firewall wasn't there. Maybe the FQDN is not quite that, but I can see other things being in that situation. I don't speak from personal experience. I'm joking, I do. Like we've had fields where like it wasn't working and then the users realize like months later, which triggers kind of an audit of like all their stuff.
So one thing that we have is that there's generally only one provider of ANP, and they're shipping the CRDs with their solution rather than it being part of the Kubernetes distribution and then implemented. I wonder if the best thing would just be you have different versions of the CRD that move forward as like minor versions, and we ship the one that's relevant with the version of Calico, for example, that has the fields in it that we support, and we we don't ship the next one until we have support for those fields. So if you try to create a policy that has an FQDN in it, it would fail with a validation error potentially.
But
then
this current CRD though, it has FQDN, right? So we would have to do something to split it up to make that work.
It has the FQDN only on the experimental CRD. So
I see.
none of us are implementing like both OVNK and Calico. I think we're all implementing the standard.
Got it.
Right, Sean? Or are you actually implementing experimental?
I'm not sure which one we have baked in at the moment, but yeah, I think once your PR lands, we're planning to switch to the standard one.
Oh, I see. Is that still in progress? Because I only see V1 Alpha 1 in the directory.
Yeah, there is no beta. So I think so if I go here, right, like I think what we are trying to get at is we have this minor release versions. So I think you're right. Let me rephrase that. The way we do it in OpenShift, and I think what Sean does is we both are consuming exactly, let's say this one. So config, I think it's here, CRD. There's two of them, right? Experimental and standard. Both of
Oh, I
us
see.
are consuming experimental actually, because this is the only because experimental has network cider, and both Calico and OVN Kubernetes consumes network ciders. So we take it from here. Except what we do is we are at least on OpenShift. I can't speak for Calico now. Sean has to clarify this. For OpenShift, we actually pin it to one of the releases that we did. I think it was like the 1.1, but there was a tag, right? I think I made Andrew cut a tag. So I think it's the 1.4 or 1.5. So I think it's 1.5 maybe. In this 1.5, there is no FQDN on experimental. And that's what I'm using in
I
OpenShift.
see. Okay.
And yeah, and that's why I was also telling Dan that before doing any other major changes to the API, I would love to have a 1.6 cut so that I can move to that easily without breaking. Like for sure, for me, at least as an implementer, I'm going to break terribly because we already GA'd the feature with the Alpha API, but that's on us. It's a different story. But we want that patch release, so that we can comfortably pin ourselves without breaking our clients. And only when we've implemented those fields, we need to move to the 1.6 or 1.7. And this is separate from the whole alpha beta because we made our API GA even before it became beta.
I see. Okay, that's shame on me for just staring at the repo. So I'm trying to understand the source of truth that those are generated from is. Sorry, I'm just revealing my complete ignorance. It's the APIs directory,
Yes.
right?
That is correct. So from the APIs directory, I think there is like a make generate. Maybe I forget which script it is, but if you run make generate, there is actually, let's see, a file that we use, I think, for doing the verify code gen. Let's see. I forget which of these files it is exactly, Bove, but I can link it to you on Slack, where we exquisitely remove the extended. So that's how it makes. It's the same thing that Gateway API does. We actually copied it from
I
there.
see.
And
Oh, I
then-
didn't realize it got so fancy. Okay. That's
Yeah,
why
and then
I
we
got very
populated
confused.
it into, right. And so
I
we populated
see.
into these two folders, and in the standard, you won't find all the fields, right? You will not find named ports. You will not find the networks. You
Oh,
won't
okay,
find
okay, okay.
FQDN.
All right.
But
I see.
nobody is
Yeah,
using
I'm really
standard to the best of
confused.
my knowledge. Right. I think only KubeVN, the CNI is using it, but everybody else is using experimental, but they're pinning it to that patch release version to not get FQDN for free.
Okay, so there's
I think we
three
built in
extended
one
things.
for these versions as well.
Sorry, what was that, Sean?
Yeah, I think we just did the same. We pulled in one of those release versions and pinned it in our code base.
Yeah, makes sense.
And it will have been the experimental one, as you said, because we wanted the networks thing.
I see.
Yeah.
So, sorry, I guess my confusion, I'm looking at the repo now and it says support : extended, but then there's this angle brackets : experimental, like right under it in the API definition.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So
That's
I was,
what
like,
we
very
use
confused.
to no, but that's exactly what we use to filter out this thing here, right? Every time you see this, it means that field is not going to be in your standard.
Right. Okay. That's. I think this is the result. This resulted in extreme confusion for me. So the idea is
And
to get rid of
remove
support
this
:
guy.
extended.
No, yeah, so remove exactly. So the PR that I have opened on this repo, so I actually have a PR already for removing it. I have to get back to it. So in this PR, I'm actually removing the support : extended from everything. And that still will work because what we actually look at is the other thing, the one that I was showing, the experimental.
Okay. Yeah.
not-
Okay. Now I'm okay. This makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. I just need to, the reason why this is a little bit blocked is that I need to also reword the NPEP a little bit because we had tests, like the end-to-end tests that we have in this repo for the existing API, the conformance tests, are also using the same scheme. So I need to make sure that I'm changing it in a way where I'm not, let's say, breaking somebody who's running those tests. And I know that KubeVN, OVN Kubernetes, and Calico are running those tests. But hopefully they're all using the versioned run of the test, right? The binary.
Maybe it's getting to specifics. Like, how do we maintain the tests? Like, which one does it expect to be installed?
So
Or do we have
the
tests that like expect one and like some tests will expect non-experimental and some will expect experimental?
so I think there is a nice, well, I wouldn't call it nice, but there is one thing we can standard. Yeah, we again copied from Gateway API, so don't blame us. We have this conformance profile suite, which is what we report the tests for, and we don't really think about whether it's an experimental or standard. Like I think the reporting mechanism treats it that way. So in the profiles we have core, and then we would also have extended, right? Like in this result, I'm not showing extended, but I'm getting rid of it anyways. That's why that PR is stalled a bit. But
I see.
it would
Do we
show
have
you
any
the whole
issues
thing.
with like implementations using a ghost struct that doesn't quite match the CRD? I've seen this before where the CRD it just like really wedges the controller.
Yeah,
I'm curious of your
yeah, I
experience
mean,
here.
so right. So usually, so far we've just pinned it to that patch release version and things go fine. But I think it's because Network Policy API, the group is small, the APIs are not as big as Gateway API. So that's why we've not had that much of a complexity, right? Like it's been pretty straightforward. We have like 3 implementations. And
Right, so there's some mechanical things, for example, like if you have a field that doesn't exist in the CRD, it technically has to be 0 value and it's stored. And then when you make the field appear, basically you can't like have non-zero default values, I think. Otherwise it just completely blows up. And
we'll
maybe
have
this is something that we need to just
test.
put as
Yeah.
like a you have to do this kind of thing if we're gonna do this.
Yeah, I think we have to also test it out. Like, and to be frank, this was added like, let's say 2 years ago, right? And I could definitely, we can see how if we
Okay.
need to improve some of those aspects, right? And given that the API is completely changing, I assume everybody who's going to touch the API now has to go fix the tests. So we'll see how it goes.
Okay, so Surya, like, when do you think you can get that in? Because it would be
The change for this
useful.
one. So maybe we can
Yeah.
actually try. I can try to see if I can get it in during the KubeCon week itself. The API, the PR is
Okay.
pretty straightforward. I only need to make sure that I'm not breaking anything in the tests by renaming things from, well, by removing the concept of extended. And if so, I hope at least Sean on our side, can you confirm that the tests that you are running, they are pinned to the patch release version, the test binary that you pull from?
I think we import the tests from the Kubernetes repo and it'll be at a particular pinned version. I'm not sure if that I guess the tests do they live in our repo?
Yeah, the tests in here live in our
Yeah, then we'll
repo.
have
I think
pinned
there was a
version
thread.
in our
Yeah.
Go mod for the test build that we do.
Okay, yeah, maybe you can double check that for me. I'll try to reach out to Kubobian also, and then I'll do it on my side so that at least when we merge this PR, we're not breaking anyone.
On our side, we added support for AMP, but we haven't pushed it hard just because we didn't get BAMP into our previous release and it was still in flux a bit. So we haven't pushed it, but we did add it in the previous release of Calico. I doubt anyone's using it yet, so I'm not worried about tearing it up to replace it with the beta version.
Got it. Yeah, I'm not talking about the API itself, but the tests, right? For example, if the tests
Yeah,
are running in
we-
your CI, that I wouldn't want to break your CI.
Yeah, it'll be pinned in a Go mod. We build our own test
Okay.
binary that imports them, I think.
Yeah,
Perfect,
so
yeah,
one of
that's
the
good.
things that I think we should discuss is now that you reminded me by saying beta is like what Gateway API found that was weird was having beta, alpha, beta, GA, and like basically you have like n
Yes.
axes. So I think this is one topic we do need to settle at KubeCon is like what to do about that.
I linked from the admin.pal meeting schedule for KubeCon over to the Gateway API one because we're trying to have a meeting specifically on CRD management that should go through some of this experimental channel stuff that it sounds like would be relevant to y'all too.
Did you put it here, Mike? Or I'm sorry, which one was it?
You know what, Surya?
Not in the agenda, in the, yes. this-
Here?
I might
Okay.
cut and paste this into a tab on that doc, just because it's like, it's probably too confusing for people to flip back and forth. Let me just do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, easy to lose track of. all this
Okay,
stuff.
this one, right, Mike?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
perfect.
there's a session that we're gonna try to plan on CRD management. And I just dropped a bunch of the discussion links for
Oh, wow. There
here.
is a map here.
Yeah, I don't know where
somebody.
somebody found that. This is a running doc. This is Salt Lake. Only the first bit is London.
Oh, I scrolled
prior
too
read,
much.
yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, we should probably organize this better.
So this one, CRD management is, oh, boy, you're already on the list. That's good.
I just added y'all.
Oh, thank you. Hey, thanks, Mike, for bringing this to our
Yep.
attention. And can you tell me quickly what that one was about? Is it about getting the CRD into core? No, that's a different one.
That's
It's a different topic.
that's like one of the motivating discussions, but there's at least two specifically about the like how we manage experimental.
I see. Okay. I'm gonna try to make it to that one so that at least we can learn something from it, let's say.
Wait, where was that link that you just opened?
Because that's the one that somebody pinged me
Oh, the
about saying, hey, if
Can you
you
drop
guys are
this?
interested, like please join. Like if you want to get your CRDs into core Kubernetes, you're having a discussion. So I was like, okay, is that this?
All right, yeah. If you can add this one to the links in that may be a good spot to add it as well. Maybe we can just have
Yeah.
the discussion here at Maintainer Summit.
Do you mean
Yeah,
here?
just stick it in there and then we'll figure it out.
Okay, perfect.
Thanks.
All right. And okay, I think we are over time, in fact. I don't want to keep anybody more than required. So a few important action items is to, if anybody has topics coming to your mind that we must discuss, especially for getting the API to beta, there is this tab in our sub-project meeting notes that Boe has populated with a few topics. So feel free to add it here. And then this will be kind of like our agenda that we will discuss during the London KubeCon. And
Yeah, so
besides
if you
that-
look at the tabs on the left, I
Yes.
just moved the doc because it's just
Oh,
like way too
perfect.
crazy to have multiple docs. So
Yeah, thank you.
just use this tab.
Okay, so
Okay.
perfect. And if anybody is looking for when and where to find us, it's in this talk. So anybody who's watching the recording, Nadia.
Okay.
So
All right.
you know where to find us,
Okay.
right? Perfect.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks everyone. I think
Bye, folks.
we're at the end. Bye-bye. Thanks for coming. See you at London.
Y'all see ya.